This is the Building Resilience Podcast, episode 212, Die with Zero. Welcome to Building Resilience, a podcast where theory, practical strategies, and inspiring stories show you how to unlock your best life. I'm your host, Leah Davidson. As a certified life coach, speech-language pathologist, and nervous system resilience expert, it is my mission to teach you how to be more resilient to life's adversities. I will show you how to manage your mind, befriend your nervous system, process your emotions, and even eliminate stress. It's time to do more than just survive. It's time to thrive. Let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Building Resilience Podcast. How's everybody doing? Hopefully getting back to the usual routine. I know that when this episode airs, all my kids will be back to their usual routine, their usual homes. I think routine is kind of good. Breaks from routine is very good, but I always appreciate returning to my routine. It's like my nervous system needs its home, and it likes coming back home. Today, I wanted to share with you some insights from a book that I read last year. Someone had recommended it to me, and my husband and I decided to listen to it together on Audible. We had been doing a short road trip, and we started the book, and then we just loved it. So we continued doing it, reading little bits at a time, sometimes in the evening. And then I love the book so much, I had shared it with a couple of my SLP clients, and one of them was reading it last year. And so in our sessions, we discussed different concepts. We watched different interviews with the author. And I have to say, it really is a book that impacted me. And that's why I want to share it with you. It impacted me in multiple ways. Part of it was validation for some of the decisions that Rob and I have made over the years. And then part of me was a reminder of some of the decisions and the input that I need to be putting in these decisions for now and for the future. So what is this magical book? Well, it's called Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. And I have to say, I believe it's a must read for everybody. I actually gave a copy to each of my kids for Christmas, even though I know they may not read it. And I'm also going to send them this podcast to listen to. Hi, kids. And if they don't listen to the podcast, well, I'm going to tell them about this book anyway, because I think it offers so many things to ponder. Now, for some of you, as you read the book or are listening to this podcast, you may think, well, these concepts are common sense. And for others, it may be much more of a wake-up call. For me, like I said, it was a mixture. Common sense and validation for some of the things that I have been doing, and then a reminder, the wake-up call piece for looking at how I'm prioritizing things now and for the future, the things that really matter. Am I prioritizing relationships, experiences, and resources? So the first concept I want to share with you is kind of like this overall foundation of the book that he talks about. There is a balance that we want to be taking in our lives between health, wealth, and time. And looking at what is the relationship between health, wealth, and time? What is the relationship between each other? And what do we value most? Now, I also listened to Bill on a podcast interview. Maybe one day I'll be big enough where he'll be able to come join me here. But I listened. He was on the Peter Attia podcast. And he gave this example of, would a 20-year-old trade places with Warren Buffett, one of the richest men ever? And, wouldn't be for sure, but the answer would most likely be no. Why not? I mean, Warren Buffett, he's got the wealth, but the majority of us would value health and time over that. So while he has the wealth, we know that potentially health and for sure time is going to be less. So we end up valuing health and time more. But are we actually living that way? And Perkins really encourages us to consider that the ultimate goal is to maximize life, to be rich in life instead of maximizing life, because it is the wealth of your life that you want to focus on and not the wealth of your savings account or your material possessions. So he offers that with wealth, health, and time, the truth is rarely you're going to have all three in abundance all at the same time. When you're young, you usually have health and time, but you don't have a ton of wealth. When you are in midlife, you may have more wealth, but you may not have as much time or as much energy. And in older age, you might have a lot more money and then time to do things, time in sense of not working or not being busy raising a family, but your health could limit what you do. So, and I do think that in all of them, we're not really sure of the grand scheme of time. Every day is a gift. The present is the only guaranteed moment. We cannot bank our time. So while accumulating wealth may be a goal, we want to rethink of it. Is it or should it be our main goal? One of the main takeaways is spend your wealth while you still have health and time to enjoy it. Don't save everything for a future version of you that may not be able to have the ability to live up to all the things you want to do with your wealth. So let's talk now about some of my favorite concepts in the book. Really, there are like themes just running all the way through that just resonated with me. And one of the themes that I loved is he talked about this idea of time buckets, which essentially means there is a season for all things. And he encourages you to really think of your life as these distinct seasons or distinct buckets, and then intentionally plan experiences that will match the energy or health, the time that you have in each phase. Now, nothing is set in stone. So I'm not saying you can't do things outside of the certain bucket, and he's not either, but he's saying there are some realities that you have to deal with. If your goal, or you have a big goal to go backpacking across Europe, you might want to consider doing that in your 20s or your early 30s when you have the energy, maybe you don't care quite as much that you're going to be staying in hostels. In fact, you want to stay there because you're going to meet other people who are in that age bracket there. This is a time where you also may want to take more risks. Maybe you're going to take a gap year. You're going to change programs that you're studying in school. You're going to start a business. You're going to move to a new city. You want to say yes to these experiences that maybe have a little bit more risk or are a little bit more physically demanding, maybe like adventure, because you have the health and the time and there's kind of less to lose, less responsibility. Now, once you hit your 40s and 50s, your family and your career may be playing a bigger role. So you may want to focus more on experiences that are going to balance connection and require more moderate energy. So planning those family trips while your kids are young to enjoy them together, and you still have the stamina to do it. And then as you hit a little bit more into middle age, maybe you're going to start a passion project that you've been dreaming about for years. And then in your 60s and beyond, maybe some more reflective experiences are going to fit here. Maybe you are going to take longer trips. Maybe you're going to be doing things that you've postponed and now intentionally savor them. The point is to spend some time mapping out your dreams and aligning them with the right stage of life. Otherwise, they're going to stay on this someday list and they may just never happen. So when Rob and I got married, we were both in our mid to late 30s. Both had gone through a divorce. So we felt like we were totally financially behind. But our kids were in the ages between 3 and 10. So we knew that time with them was very finite. And we also only had Rob's kids 50% of the time, and Zach and Josh, we had a little bit more, but we only had a portion of those years that we had with them. In the scheme of things, it kind of feels when you're in the thick of raising children, like, oh, you've got so much time. But we knew like before our oldest would be 18, we only had 8 years. So we made the decision that while we kind of wanted to try to recoup from some of our financial loss and we wanted to save for our future, that maybe it would be a better idea to invest in the experiences that we would have with our kids. Yes, trying to catch up from money lost in the divorce and pay down a mortgage and invest for our retirement was a priority, but we only have this finite time with our kids. And travel was a huge, huge, huge priority for me, as I've already shared multiple times on the podcast. So we knew that our buckets for the remaining years of our 30s and our 40s would be very much focused on family experiences and investments in things like travel. And it would be focused on something that Perkins refers to as memory dividends. I love, 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 love this concept. It's this idea where you invest early on in memory. And the benefit of investing early is that memories compound. You get to anticipate memories, then you get to have the experience, enjoy it in the moment, and then there's a compound effect. You get to relive them every time you retell or recall an experience. And these memories will compound over time. So the earlier you invest in experiences, the more you'll enjoy those dividends. So if you take like a gap year in your 20s or do a backpacking trip or travel with your kids when they're younger, you get decades of storytelling, of photos, and then memories to look back on every single time. I totally can vouch for this because I know in our family, we have a lot of fun recalling different adventures on the trips that we've taken as a family or the experiences, the traditions that we've had. Now, that's not to say that you can't enjoy things when you're older, because I'm older now and Rob and I are definitely enjoying things. And I remember seeing like my grandparents really experiencing lots of trips and sharing experiences and enjoying things. But the reality is that memory dividend window will become smaller as we put off different experiences. So a key point is to really pay attention to the seasons of your life. Focus on building memory dividends. So you want to start early, which means trying to find a balance like we had to do between investing in experiences and building wealth. All right, so the next point is it's also a good idea to look a little more closely at these buckets or these seasons because you may want to take more risks when you have little to lose. So when you're younger, you kind of do have less to lose. You have fewer responsibilities and you have more time to recover if things don't work out. So he really encourages people to consider taking your biggest risks in early life. So if you start dreaming of building a business or traveling the world, your 20s or 30s are a good time to do it. You have a lot more room to experiment and fail. And of course, failure in itself can be one of our greatest teachers. And you'll learn these lessons early and take them on with you throughout life. Now, the title of the book, Die with Zero, I want to talk a little bit more about that. Does he really mean like die with nothing, drain all your money recklessly? No, obviously not really. But what he's saying is don't put off experiences or delay experiences because you're too busy saving for this rainy day. So he's not saying to not save it all. And I'm certainly not saying that either. But looking at planning your financial life so that you can enjoy your wealth during your life with the people that you love rather than saving and saving and saving and then waiting and then having assets that you're going to be leaving behind. And I love the example that he gives. Say you have kids in your 30s, and let's assume you live until your 90s. If you're saving and saving, then say if you die at 90, whatever you have left will be going to your kids who are now in their 60s. When do kids need money most? Well, obviously much earlier in life when they're trying to pay for school or trying to buy for a house. So maybe they need more money in their 30s. And this is what Perkins calls stealth inheritance, helping your loved ones while you're still alive to see an impact. And again, it doesn't mean that we are going to have money to give to our kids to put down in a house. But the point is, if you have something that you're hoping to give sooner rather than later, it's usually better. I also like thinking of investing in my kids or my family by way of experiences. He talks a lot about wealth, and obviously these conversations are coming from a position of privilege because a lot of people are just living day to day. They don't have the money to be saving for wealth. But what I do know everybody has is the ability to invest in experiences. So where are you putting your resources? And I look at experiences for me with my children. This is where I want to invest, and with my extended family and with my husband. I think we all have so much stuff in this world, but you can never have too many experiences where you're building memories. Now, another point that Perkins makes is to be really careful not to fall in what he calls a fear trap of saving and over-saving, only to find out that you have saved everything and missed out on the actual journey. And he refers to this as the net fulfillment curve, which shows that saving too much can actually decrease your overall life satisfaction. For example, somebody may be working like 80 hours a week to try to stash away as much money for their retirement as possible, but they've never enjoyed the process. They're just working so hard. They're bringing home money. They're saving money, but they never get to enjoy the money, and their health is impacted. Maybe they will end up burning out. And perhaps when they finally do retire, they find that their health is not as great as it had been, or maybe they're too tired to enjoy everything that they had been saving for. And Perkins gives this great example of people who are in their later years, even still saving. And he wants to ask them, when exactly is this huge party that you're throwing that you're saving for? When exactly do you stop saving? Because you're working and working and working. But what if you do end up having a little extra money? That means you actually could have worked less and enjoyed more in the moment. So it is hard to find that sweet spot, but I think it does make you think and maybe be a little bit more deliberate. Now, I know the argument that many people make is, well, what about saving for a rainy day? Don't we need money to take care of ourselves in our future as we get older? And yes, I think that's why it's a balance. It's not about literally dying with zero, in my opinion. We want to have something stashed away if we can. But then there's some who argue that we actually need a lot less than we think we need. Now, I'm not a financial planner, but if you're concerned, which I admit I'm a planner, I have some scarcity, I do have some fear. So I wanted to get some extra help and some expert help. And so I did. I highly, highly recommend sitting down with a financial planner, advisor, someone that you can share your concerns with, your vision with, and that can include sharing how you want to enjoy your journey too. We recently switched to a financial wealth management company here in Toronto. So big shout out to the team over at Novell Wealth Management. And I can't tell you what a relief it has been to share our vision with people who can help us map it out, plan it out, help us build towards what we want to achieve, to plan for living now, enjoying our experiences now, navigating our own unique situation, and to plan for our future, because it really, truly is a balance. And sometimes we can benefit from the perspective and the advice from other people. Now, the last concept I want to touch on is really the emphasis that he puts on the overall goal of having a fulfilling life, living intentionally, focusing on what counts. Research has actually shown that the best investments you can make in life is not in our material possessions. It's not in a beautiful car or a big house, which those, of course, nice things. Nothing wrong with them if you want them. But it is investing in experiences, investing in relationships. Investing in experiences and relationships is where we get the maximum reward. Now, we've talked about this before in the podcast. We actually tire of material things. You may be excited to get the newest gadget or a new car, maybe excited for a period of time, but then we actually get tired of it. And this is what's referred to as hedonic adaptation, or the hedonic treadmill. I'll just briefly review that again. I know we've touched on it before in the podcast. So it refers to our tendency to return to a baseline level of happiness after experiences positive or negative events. So we may feel elated or excited after buying a new car, or even sad after the loss of something valuable. But over time, our emotional response does fade, and we kind of settle back into our usual happiness set point. So when it comes to buying experiences versus things, hedonic adaptation really explains why experiences often bring a lot more lasting happiness. So experiences, as we've already talked about, create memories. The memory dividends are huge. We can anticipate and we can revisit in addition to the actual experience. The other reason why investing in experiences is so powerful is there's a lot less comparison, because material goods, it's easier to compare our possessions with one person and another person. And that can actually lead to dissatisfaction, like, oh, their car is nicer than mine, their house is nicer than mine. But experiences, because they're so unique, they don't invite in the same level of comparison. There may be still some comparison of, oh, they got to do an experience versus not do one, but whether your trip or my trip, it's so unique that it's much harder to compare. So we're much less likely to feel dissatisfied with our own experiences. Then there's the social connection piece. Experiences usually are things that we share with other people, and that involves us deepening relationship and building that connection, that sense of belonging, which we know really contributes to our overall happiness and our well-being. And then experiences, they can help shape our identity. They contribute to who we are, what our stories are, what our values are, and our actual sense of self. Whereas possessions are a little bit more external and can lose their significance over time. So in short, spending on experiences really aligns with this idea of long-term health and wealth, whereas material possessions, they often get stuck on that treadmill of hedonic adaptation, where we're constantly always feeling like we want more, that we're never satisfied with what we have. Now, I am not saying not to buy things, but I want to encourage you to consider where you invest. And if you think like, well, I'm not spending, I don't buy things, I don't have material things, well, we're also talking about saving and oversaving. Maybe you are great at saving money, but what are you saving for? Will you have money accumulated in the end, but will have missed out on so many experiences? Are you so concerned about saving money? Are you so concerned about the focus on money that you're not enjoying your life now? Because it's not about how much you spend or how much you save. It truly is about how much did you live? How rich is your life? How fulfilled are you in your life? So some questions to really consider. Are you using your time and energy to create the experiences that you're going to treasure? Are you aligning your spending with your values and your priorities? Are you putting things off unnecessarily, hoping that there'll be more time for them later, or just assuming that there'll be more time for them later? Are you going to be leaving behind things, money for your kids or for charities, instead of enjoying that time with your kids now, or seeing the charities that you want to leave money to benefiting from that money now? And of course, again, I will say I understand this is coming from a position of more privilege. If you do not have wealth, if you're not able to save or spend, I really encourage you to focus on the experiences, because that is where the true wealth actually is. The experiences and building the relationships. And we don't need any money to do that. Now, tying this all back into resilience, when you invest in meaningful experiences, what you're doing is you're building up a reservoir of positive memories. And these memories are what sustain you through hard times, reminding you of joy, connection, and what's possible. I have a running joke with my family. After many of our trips, I have always pulled together and created little videos. So maybe it's videos of the videos or like a slideshow. And I have tons of them from different trips. And my joke has always been, as I get older, and if I start losing a little bit of my memory, not able to do the things I want to do, just sit me down and play these videos for me, because those are the things that are going to sustain me through the difficult times, all these memories. And resilience isn't just about bouncing back from adversity, as we've talked about before. It really is about living a life so rich with meaning and intention that you feel equipped to handle whatever comes your way. And resilience is also about being present. Are you living on autopilot? Or are you living a lot more deliberately? It's only when you're able to regulate your nervous system, get in that zone of resilience, where you're able to start living intentionally and less reactively. And don't think I would get through an episode without a plug for taking care of your nervous system. There's not a chance. Because remember, your nervous system is behind everything that you do. It will be a deciding factor on whether you're living on autopilot or living more deliberately. It is there with you when you decide to spend money or save money. And it's there with you when you decide to create your memories and build those memory dividends. So ask yourself, what's in your time buckets? Are there experiences you've been putting off? How can you start prioritizing wealth, health, time to live a fuller, more intentional life, more aligned with what you want out of your life? Are you waiting to live, or are you living now? What can you be doing now to make sure that you are having a very rich, intentional life? Throw the party, take the trip, treat the kids or the grandkids, give the gift of experiences and memories. I hope you found it helpful. I totally encourage you to go read the book, Die with Zero, and I will see you next time.
Thank you for listening to the Building Resilience podcast. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about managing stress, building resilience, and leading a more purposeful life, then make sure we're connected on Instagram and Facebook at Leah Davidson Life Coaching. You can also subscribe to my weekly newsletter at www.leahdavidsonlifecoaching.com/newsletter. Looking forward to connecting.